Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started because we're on a little bit of a time crunch. I apologize. Again, we'll just kind of go through some different stuff and see where we get today, and I'll get you some more information tomorrow. New money estimated from the state, got the updated revenue amount. It looks to be $1,069,347. So that's a good thing. That's a positive. Breakage still not finalized yet. Currently, we are sitting at 11 open positions. Breakage with filled positions, that means the ones we have filled already, is actually a negative 79.78.
Okay, question.
Yep.
Could you talk about that in a little bit more detail for me? So I think we were confused. So right now we currently have 11 open positions.
Correct.
Okay. So we had however many open positions. We filled those.
Right.
But with the people that we have filled so far, it's 8,000-ish more than
Right.
what
If
we
you
were
exclude
replacing.
the 11 open
If you
positions
exclude
right
the
now,
11.
it would be a
Okay.
negative 8,000
Okay.
basically. If you add those back, if we didn't hire anybody for those 11 positions, which is not, obviously that's not our intent, it would probably be somewhere in the neighborhood of 413,000.
Okay.
So that's a pretty big swing.
Correct.
I'll know more as time goes on. We've got, in fact, we were going to offer a position to someone today. So until we get back on that, we won't know for sure. So breakage is still a question mark, obviously.
Could we get a breakdown of the
Sure.
breakage?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, we talked about the anticipated property insurance. Again, the meeting was postponed to June 8th, 20% increase. When they postponed it, one of the things that they pointed out was that the volatility of the market right now, which in my experience equates to more of an increase. I don't know that. I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, I left on there adding the column could be anywhere from about 120,000 to 357. Stipend column 226. Health insurance, and I've spent some time on this today, and I want to get a little bit of input from you guys. All right, number of claims from last year hurt us because we had 4 claims that totaled about $3.5 million. This year, the initial rate that he's going to give us tomorrow is a 39% increase. Now, having said that, I know that there are 10 claims for $2.76 million. And again, that's why we get insurance, is to cover when people have things happen. A couple of things, obviously we had talked about the additional $30 a month, and we can get back to that as we go down farther. It's possible if we offered fewer plans, but again, what Blue Cross Blue Shield is going to say tomorrow when I say that to them is they're going to say, well, yeah, if you want to drop to $500 and $1,000, maybe we can reduce the rate increase. I'm not going to guarantee that he's going to say that even, because I don't know.
How many take that plan?
We have the largest number of people take the $500 deductible.
And when you say the 500, you're talking about the high deductible one or option
The
one?
$500 deductible is option A. It's the top one. High deductible would be the $4,000 deductible. Now keep in mind, we don't make money on insurance. This is all the way that it goes. I did do some checking on the state of Kansas plan. From what I understand, there are around 15-ish school districts that are in there. 11 school districts have left.
11 of the 15, or there was 20?
There was 26
Okay.
ish, somewhere in that ballpark. Now here's the rationale behind why they have left. For employees, it probably is a little bit cheaper than what it would be for us right now. The difference is the cost for the district about triples, which is why districts are leaving. Because what they've done is, if you've gone with the state plan and you're in it, those folks aren't getting raises. Because if you triple the amount that we contribute, $1,200, that's going to be, another $800 roughly. Well, I would rather see that $800 on the salary cell than do it that way. We can find out more information about it, but at this point, I would say that it's probably not a very good option for us. Here is an interesting conversation, though, that I had this afternoon. One of the folks that are higher than a representative with United Healthcare is interested in our business specifically. Made a phone call. They offered to bid last year, but only if we guaranteed that we would take whatever the lowest bid was when we opened the packages. We didn't want to do that because we wanted to see more of what was going on. This year, they have contacted us with a desire to meet with us. They are primarily in Kansas City and would like to expand out, and we are one of the districts that they have targeted because they know that we have had some issues with Blue Cross Blue Shield the last few years. I don't know what that will end up being like, but I wanted to let you guys kind of have an idea of what was in the works. So my question to you is this, and I know you may need to think about it. What would you, if we can get a considerably better rate with United Healthcare, what do you guys think about that?
This is the group that works for Rosedale.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's who my kids have.
I mean, for me, I would just want to know,
Decent.
like, as a mom of 4 kids, I would want to know, like, what doctors can I go to?
Right, who's in the network?
What's it like for my
Sure.
daughter to see her endocrinologist? Things like that. Like, that would, do we have to go to Stormont? Do we have to go to Saints? Like, do we have some options?
Right.
Those would be the questions that I would want to know.
Right, that's one of the biggest ones for me is what's the network?
Right.
Who can I go to? And
Yeah.
who can I use? Do I have to change doctors?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to go to a specific hospital, or do I have to go to a specific pharmacy, or all those types of questions?
Because our eye insurance, like vision insurance, changed or something several years ago, and like my doctor doesn't take that little $100 we get or whatever it is. So there's actually very few in Topeka that do. So those would be the major questions I would have.
Those are some questions you could ask ahead of time
Yep.
too. Before
Yep.
you even.
Well, and
I guess the big one in Topeka would be, are they contracted with Cotton O'Neill? Because while Cotton O'Neill is not the only one that's the biggest provider.
Oh, definitely.
So if you're,
And what the coverage and
and do they require, like, so if you need to see a specialist, do they require you to see like, there's primary care first?
the
Yeah.
referrals would be a good question. Yeah.
Right. Well, and those will all be the general questions that we're not normally going to ask. I guess
I mean, my overall response would be,
are we
should everything else be equal, I think people would much rather have a lower rate than worry. I mean, if they can
Right.
still stay with what they have or have very few changes, I think they would be willing to switch insurances.
Absolutely, and that's really the question. If it's apples to apples, but at a lower rate, because there are organizations that won't change from Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And then do they
just don't want to.
offer like the employee spouse, employee children, the family
Right.
option?
We
I mean, 'cause that's
those
a
would all
big
be things that
thing for
we would check on, obviously. What I'm hearing, and you guys tell me if I'm not interpreting this correctly, is that you don't think there would be any issue if it was apples to apples. And again, obviously, I don't know that answer yet. If it were a lower rate, especially if it was a significantly lower rate, you don't think there would be anybody that would have issues with us not being with Blue Cross Blue Shield?
It's scary, I think, because we've been
Right.
with them so
Sure.
long.
Right.
But I think we've also had a lot of,
We've done it a year or
Issues
two
with-
way back, and it kind of put the pressure on
I mean,
Blue Cross Blue Shield to say lower or you're
I mean,
gonna
where's
lose
the, I mean, I understand we've had large claims. We're not the
No,
only
we're not a
district that has
huge
large
district.
claims, though. I think that's where I get frustrated when, well, you've had some large claims. Yeah, so is, I mean, everybody has.
Part of it
claims.
is-
That's why we have insurance.
Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas doesn't do what's called a pooling contract, which is different. So that makes, without boring you to death about the little bit that I know about insurance, it does make a difference. Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas City does pooling contracts. And the difference is when you have one of those years where you have a lot of claims, and we've had 2 back-to-back essentially. Part of what's hurt us right now is we had a 41.5% rate that we were given last year, and we worked really hard to get it down to 16%. I'm here to tell you that Blue Cross and Blue Shield wants to make money. And as a result, they're not going to just negotiate stuff away again this year. We were able to explain last year that some of the claims, we had folks that were going to drop off the plan. That is not there. First of all, there are 10 claims as opposed to 4, so we've more than doubled it. Now the dollar amount is still fairly significant. The other part of it is not all those, especially some of the big ones, are not going to be on there. And as a result, that makes a difference. I understand. I don't know what Jill, the other districts that you're talking about, I don't know which ones. And I don't know what their claims amount are. I don't know how many
Right.
people they have in their pool. I don't know if they offer 4 options. Those are all things that play into the overall rates. Again, and I know it's frustrating for you guys. It's frustrating for all of us that take the insurance. I don't want to potentially look at, right now, if you're on a single $500 deductible, it's $221 is the contribution that employees make. If that goes up to, the overall amount is $681, something like that. And if you see basically a 40% increase, that's going to take that to a significantly higher amount. We have tried to put in $30 a month to offset things, but again, last year, kind of blew that out of the water because the $30 costs the district $144,000, and it didn't really make or feel like it made much of a dent. So that's why each of the last few years we have gone to the market and we have thrown it out there to try and find the best deal that we can. Again, the district doesn't make any money off of this, and it's just one of those things we do to help facilitate that. Just like we don't negotiate the things that are in the plan necessarily. What drugs are covered and things like that. Providers and Blue Cross Blue Shield do those negotiations.
Can I go back to, so you said that they talked about if we would be willing to give up the $500 deductible, that they would.
They did last year. They asked me that question when I brought it up in passing. They asked whether or not we would, because when you look at most districts, they don't have $500 deductibles.
But people don't look at it as you're not just paying $500. Then you have your 80/20 and you're out of pocket. You're actually the one that has the least amount of out of pocket is your high deductible. People don't. If you're going to have a major thing happen, you should take the high deductible because your out of pocket is going to be the least amount. I've done this a lot of years from having kids, and lots of surgeries.
But you're
I'm
right.
not in the 11
Yeah.
claims this year, okay? I'm not. But that's what I'm surprised because if you have anything major happen, you really don't want that option A
Right.
because your out of pocket's the most up there.
And yet that's where we have our highest number of people.
Well, because they probably look at it as cheaper in the beginning.
Correct.
You know,
But-
they don't look past.
Yeah.
It's cheaper if they don't have something large.
Major.
Right. And we still have that you can only move up one option per year.
I don't know that I will have to double check, but I don't know that,
We used to. So
Right.
like I could go from 4 to 3 this year, and then next year I could go to 2 if I wanted, option whatever B.
I can double check.
So-
I don't know that we have anything that says that again, because it's
Okay.
the amount of money you're spending. It's not, I mean,
We
the
used to.
contribution from the district stays the same.
I guess I would worry about switching insurances where I remember it's been a while, but we switched insurances and the first year was great. A few people had to switch up some doctors, but the majority of people were okay. And it was that too good to be true where you got hit with a huge increase kind of the following year, the year after that. And so we ended up back at Blue Cross and Blue Shield
Right.
just because the price wasn't nearly as
Do
steady.
you remember
as
how
what-
long ago that was? Ballpark.
I don't know how long we've had Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
I think I've always had Blue Cross, and I've been here. You think it's been like
It's been since I've been teaching.
I thought it was,
This is my 21st. Oh, I just finished 21.
so it might have been maybe your first couple years, you think?
Maybe? I don't know.
So
I don't-
probably
I mean, I remember-
between 15 and 20, maybe?
Yeah,
Maybe.
because I've been here.
I've always had, I think, Blue Cross.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the risk.
Yeah, it is. There's no doubt.
We gotta do something.
Discretionary leave.
Oh, wait, so
Yep.
just for clarification, we're going to entertain the idea? Okay. That's a long, lengthy discussion.
Oh, I don't see a reason why not
Just
to.
wanted to put that down.
Yeah, I don't see a reason why not to.
Well, and before we do anything, obviously, my intent is that we're going to go ahead and get bids from anybody we can.
Yeah.
United Health specifically contacted us and wants to meet with us. Again, I think part of it is they want to expand their business, and I would guess that they know that from last year, we were pretty unhappy with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and not a surprise that just seems like a smart business decision on their part.
Will they tell you?
Do they not know about
what
our
schools
claims?
are? Or you might
They will.
contact them,
They will when we have that visit.
talk to them
Curious.
and see what they think of it.
Sure. Okay, discretionary leave. Anything else that you guys have on that you want to talk about? I know we're on a little bit of a time constraint.
Not really. I didn't know if you guys had questions about.
I'd like to just put it aside for now, table it for now, and let's come back to it, if that's okay.
Fine.
Because it's one of those I think we can work on. Tuition incentive. What do you guys have in mind?
Well,
Do you
I
have
had
something
asked to
specific?
see
We
what
have
our
not-
breakdowns have been.
Right, we have not had. Yeah,
Like if we've ever gotten how close we've been to going over that.
we haven't gone over the amount.
Yeah, I remember you had said we had never gone over the amount, but I didn't know. Is there a way to give a teachers a greater benefit without really increasing the pool of money for the district?
Probably.
Say that one more time.
Well, is there a way to give teachers a greater benefit without really increasing the pool of money from the district?
You're thinking kind of go from maybe 4 hours to 6 hours that they could. I'm just using
Right, yeah, increase the amount of hours or increasing the amount of money per hour.
and it
or,
can still have a maximum of 22 or 25.
Or, right, and
whatever
even if you
thousand.
increase that maximum just a couple $1,000s to kind of think, okay, well, if we did this, then if you take
Mhm.
these amount of people who normally submit, well, we would be a little bit over that pool. So even if we put in maybe like $2,000 extra into that pool, that would cover, our normal amount of people, but yet you would still be giving those individuals who submit a greater incentive, a greater amount.
Right. Would it be fair to say that you're thinking an increase in the number of hours that are allowed, or an increase in the number of dollars per credit hour?
So another thing I wanted to look at, and I completely forgot to check this until I got here, and I'm sorry, is that somebody had asked me about, do we allow individuals who are getting credits but not working towards a master's?
I believe so.
So can they submit still?
I believe they can.
So if you're at BA 24, BA whatever, but you're just getting your few credit hours, but you're not working towards a master's, can you submit still for the? Well, they have to be, but they have to be upper master level hours, but
Right.
they don't have to be towards a master's.
Yeah.
Like you could just be getting them, like, or for the people who have, like, I have a master's.
Different levels, like this is PA.
Or, but like I have a master's, so if I wanted to,
Right. And I
like,
think,
it's gonna take me a really long time to move over on the salary schedule by just doing in-service, but if I do like a college credit hour, then that will give me more credit. So, you know, can I submit for that even though it's technically not towards the master's because I have mine already? And somebody had said that they didn't think you could submit if it wasn't towards a master's.
So if it's not going towards an increase in your degree level, you can't submit.
That's what I'm checking on, because that's the question.
I don't
thought the
think
question
that
was
that's
this wasn't
been the
in that
case
area.
because of someone that's got a master's wouldn't necessarily be working towards.
But there, we have multiple teachers who have to renew their license every 5 years who aren't
Right.
working towards a master's, who still have to take those 4 hours of college credit.
Correct.
Liz, I'm sorry. I mean, item 23 in our negotiated agreement speaks to this.
That's what I'm trying to
And
find.
it's,
Thank
it's,
you.
it's number 1, and it says all hours taken must relate to the original licensure, a master's, specialist, or doctorate degree in education.
But your original licensure would still be,
Is that your continuing ed stuff? Well, we
That's
call it
what I would
continuing ed.
assume.
So I've taken classes since my master's that were used for tuition reimbursement.
The
So,
superintendent
and
has
they
to approve undergraduate hours for justifiable reasons. But that's really all.
So to me, it looks like as
says.
long as you can still submit.
Right.
Okay, that was the question that I had posed. Somebody had emailed me and asked.
But it needs to be related to something.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, again, you can't take underwater basket weaving for credit.
Unless we need a basket.
Unless
weaving
you are an
teacher.
art teacher.
I mean, unless you're an art,
and you're
yes.
taking underwater basket weaving for credit.
That might be another
I got your
elective.
point.
It looks to me in the last decade that the most amount that's been reimbursed is $13,248.75.
So we still had an additional like 2,500 that we could have
Right.
used.
There was still money.
Well, I think the 4 is a weird number. The 4 hours to me.
And I know you guys may not have been involved with that either. What I wonder is if it was put in place because so many people, when they go to do their license renewal, it's 4 hours if you don't have a master's. You have to have at least 4 hours. So I'm going to presume that was probably where that came from, but I agree with you. It's an odd number to have in there.
What did you say it was? You said it was 13.
The most that I see in the last 10 years is 13,248.75. And I will send this to you.
Liz, I'm taking notes on behalf of Jamie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you see how many people that represents?
It doesn't have that. It's just dollar amounts. But I think that at the least kind of touch on topics today, I think that's one we would be interested in having more of a conversation. And maybe what you would want to think about would be, do you want to move to something like 6 hours? Or do you want to move the max from 125 to a different dollar amount? Or maybe a combination, maybe it's 6 hours and 150. I don't know what that'd be. And I don't want to put you guys on the spot to have an instant answer right now.
Is there, I mean, our next meeting isn't for a little over 2 weeks, so we have time. So, but I didn't know if there was a record somewhere of like how many people submitted versus the number of hours that people are submitting for.
We can see, I can find out.
Okay. Because I think those numbers and having those numbers would help us kind of guide which way to go on that so that we could benefit the most people.
25 more hours that people took. I'm still looking at it. I'm still looking at it.
Absolutely.
Not to you. I can staff members for 2 more hours.
Okay. Again, for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and retirement benefits. And I know, Liz, I'm going to let you make sure that we're on the same page.
Yes.
You sent me an email, but I want to make sure that we're all, I'll let you go ahead and talk on that.
Okay. So when we talked last, I had initially said we were just interested in moving the retirement benefit into the negotiated contract. And I had talked to some teachers afterwards and they had said, well, this is what it says. And I said, no, it doesn't say that. And they're like, yeah. And so I went back through and reread it very diligently. And no, they were right. That is what it said. And so I have a couple questions to start off with. Because my big question is, I understand that there are the 3 different groups. Do you guys have it in front of you, like what we're talking about? Okay. So there's the 3 different groups. The group 1, which is the permanent policy, and you have to be age 60 or greater and have worked a total of 30 continuous years in the district. And then you have to have been enrolled in the district plan for the last 5 years, or a minimum of 5 years continuous, immediately before, so the previous 5. That is great. I'm okay with that. It gets to group. Yes.
What was the 5? I got
So it's
60
like,
plus 30
it's
years of
60
service.
plus 30 years of service and the last 5 years enrolled in the district health plan.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then group 2 and group 3 is where I get confused.
You're not alone.
Okay.
You're not alone.
Group 2 is a grandfather policy. We'll call it grandfather policy 1 because they're both called grandfather policy. And it says 20 years employment in the district before July of 2019, enrolled in district health plan before June 9 of 2014, age 55 or greater, and then a minimum of 2 years continuous enrollment in the district health plan immediately before retirement. But group 3 is also 20 years, but the dates change a little. So 20 years before 2019, continuous enrollment in the district health plan from September 1 of 2014, age 58 or greater, and a minimum of 2 years continuous enrollment in the district health plan immediately before their retirement.
If you, for those of you across the table, want to have a digital copy, this is in board docs.
Yeah.
And it's GBQR.
Thank you.
So
It's confusing.
It's the dates.
it's the dates that I have a question about. Because I don't know when this was updated, because it doesn't.
2014.
So this was updated.
Why the 2019?
Okay, this was updated in 2014?
It was adopted by the Board of Education on the 9th of June, 2014.
But then where?
But then where did 2019?
did
So
come in.
how could you have been enrolled by?
Or did you just push it out 5 years and say,
I think that would be my
we're here?
guess,
So we
is that it was,
They were premonitions.
So like you wouldn't get it, otherwise you're falling under group 1?
or if there were a
Like,
policy
so
before, which I
between-
can't tell you.
Okay, so here's my big question.
Mhm.
Other than okay, why the years? Like, if you want people to be employed,
Why the dates?
Why the dates?
Not the years.
Like, why the dates? If you want, like, I guess I'm wondering if we want people to be employed like for 20 years plus in order to get the thing. Why doesn't just say 20 years?
Don't say that you have to have it by a certain date. So like, maybe give an example of like, so what?
Like, and I understand. Like, so
20 years by 2000, you would need to have 20 years by 2019 to get full benefits. So like, I'll just give, I
Yeah.
started in, I think, 07. So that means I only have 12 years, even though I've taught more than 12 years for this district. And I hope to be here more than 20 years, but I'm not going to get a full benefit after 20 years working for the district.
Well, and let me.
well, first off, we'll preface this
We
with
just
we
don't.
understand that this is a board policy and that this could change, next month, and we don't know. But for transparency, like, this is a benefit for teachers, and staff, not just for teachers, but for teachers, administration. This is a benefit, and having it just kind of change when you've been in the district is not super transparent for staff coming in and for the staff that you already have. So,
question?
yes.
Does any other district offer this?
So Lindsay's not here. But when she saw that this was only in the board policy and was not in our negotiated agreement, she was shocked. She said that she had not seen it. She had not seen a benefit this large not in the negotiated agreement.
So this has never been an issue. I mean, I'm not calling it an issue,
Yeah.
but it's something that you just never really thought of looking
Most
at.
districts have gone away from policies like this. They've gone to different types of things.
I'm just wondering why it wasn't talked about previous to this day. That's
Well, and a couple of points that to make. I have no idea who wrote it, so I don't know.
There was a committee in 2014.
Right.
That included teachers and administrators
Sure.
and everybody.
But there are a couple of things. Number one, I would suspect that, and again, this is me suspecting.
Right.
I think that probably the two grandfather clauses, anytime you put a grandfather clause, part of that is to phase out some part of it. That would be why I would guess that the dates are there. The other part to point out is, and you read this at the first, and I wrote myself a little note. Group 1, which is the permanent policy, age 60 or greater,
Right.
or,
Right.
not and, or.
Oh, or having worked in for a total of 30 continuous years in the district.
Now, then the minimum of 5 years continuous enrollment in the district health plan immediately before retirement. One of the things that I would say is this is a policy that needs, regardless, it's a policy that needs reworked, or at least reworded. The challenge, and fortunately we've got Mike here who at least has an idea that there was a
In 2014,
Right.
the key word was consecutive.
Continue.
And
Continuous.
because a lot of ladies took off to have a family, and they
Sure.
were off 3 to 5 years.
And
Well,
then-
they had to be continuous, so they had to start all over. We thought that was not fair. So when they changed, that was one of the things they did change. And so it was at least we had a couple ladies at
Sure.
the middle school. And then now it would be total years.
Right. So there's several parts of it, and some of it, and you guys can certainly disagree, it seems almost contradictory. It seems like it says this, but then it says something else that is different.
Correct.
And I think that is never what we necessarily want. I'm going to make a suggestion, and between maybe now and the next meeting, as you guys take a look at it, ideas on whether it's a board policy or whether it's not, or whatever the case, what you feel is the most confusing and how you might word it to try and help with some clarity. And we can certainly look to do the same thing. I have told people since I've been here, it's the most confusing and convoluted policy that I've ever seen.
Well, I guess what my concern and what we had talked about when we were back in there was that, so I started in the district before Jill. I started in 2002. So in 2019,
You would have 17.
I would have only had 17 years. Now, if I stay until I retire, I will have 30 years. But that means that anybody who wasn't, it's just a huge gap of people that you are missing out on that have been loyal to the district, but maybe didn't start their career in the district. Because, if I don't qualify under that and I just finished 21 years and I'm not close to retirement, then that means that there are a lot of people who could not fall under there. And I think that would be a huge disservice to people who have spent a majority of their teaching district
And in the
or
other
teaching
part,
time in the district.
and in the other part of it, staff members electing retirement under CAPERS who meet the criteria for one of the groups above, with the exception that the words 11 years shall replace the words 20 years, may receive a prorated retirement benefit according to the following schedule. I'll be honest with you, I've never seen that before.
Right, and the schedules are different too for staff and for administration. Administration get a lot higher benefit than our teachers are getting as well for the same amount of years. And it's a pretty big, it adds up.
Well, from 10% and 50%?
Yeah. So a staff member would only get 10% after 11 years. And an administrator would get 55% of the district benefit.
But my suggestion would be, you guys take a look, see what you think would make more sense,
Start.
and maybe we have that discussion.
Okay.
Because again, I know I'm beating the horse, but we've got some ground that we want to try and cover, and we're a little short on time.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a interesting policy. Plan time, and specifically this was a proposal to clarify plan time and travel time for traveling or itinerant teachers. I know we had an issue that came up with that this year, and I was made aware of it, and I think we resolved it. Was there more than one?
Not necessarily. I think it's just been historically. Like, I know that there was a year. Well, so I traveled for 4 or 5 years. And I'm almost positive my plan time and my travel time were grouped. Like, I'm almost positive part of my plan time was my travel time. And I know 1 year specifically it was, because when I got to the high school, I had 20 minutes before my next class started, and then I didn't have a plan the rest of the day. So it's not that it's only happened this year. I think it's happened a lot more in the past than we've known. And teachers just didn't know to speak up.
Well, and that's one of the things we want to make certain happens. This is one of those things that ought to be just resolved administratively. It would be difficult to put it in there because not every itinerant teacher is going to have exactly the same situation. So,
I don't know if we need to get specific.
well, but if we're going to put it in the negotiated agreement, we need to have it be specific. Because at some point, we won't be the ones here, and I don't want to point out policy GBQR. And what we talk about right now will make perfect sense, and we may all walk out of here and say 100%, absolutely right. And somewhere down the road, somebody's going to say it was probably that Marty guy. He was an idiot.
So what would be the pitfalls if we just put something in that said travel time will not be included in plan time for itinerant teachers?
Why don't you do this? Come up with some specific wording that you're thinking, and then we'll
Write it
talk
down.
about that.
Write it down, Sarah.
What?
I just wrote it down.
I am. You're good.
And again, I know I'm going through these like,
But I also think it's important, like you say, well, we can handle administratively. Well, then the following year, if it's a different administrator and then they don't understand, it's important that we do put it in so that we don't have this discussion again.
supplemental edition, and the one that you were thinking about was Viking United.
Correct.
And I think we would be in agreement with that one.
If you remember, I said I had one and maybe two. So I got the information from the other teacher, Mr. Deckett at the high school. He was new to us this year, I believe. Yes?
Mhm.
Okay. He had reached out and asked about another assistant for forensics.
Mhm.
And I said, well, I need your why, so that I can present that to the board. And I got it a little bit before this meeting, but not enough time to send it to you yet.
Right.
So,
And typically what we've done on that, I think, is if the numbers warrant it, we've added.
so I will get that and send it to you guys, and then that may be something
Sure.
we can talk about at the next meeting. Okay.
Extra duty pay. And I don't know, I don't want to put Lisa on the spot here, but I'm not sure if we've discovered all of them.
No, we're still, we've literally pulled everybody's from this year. and went through and-
I don't know that anybody that's turned them in has been paid.
I think it's the turn-in. So not that teachers are just not turning them in, because there were a number that I had failed to do, and that is my own fault and not yours.
Sure.
But that I think historically there are activities at the secondary level specifically that it has been where they have been told they don't turn them in. It's just kind of like, this is volunteer time, and this is what you get to do.
So you had said, if it's after hours,
Correct.
that it would be the extra duty, but not if they're doing it during school. Is that right?
So
Did I understand
a lot
that?
of these, correct.
Okay.
That is what I said.
Okay.
A lot of the activities that take place, they will require extra planning. They do extra planning. These teachers do extra planning, and some of it could be on school time when they could be planning their classes, but are now planning this because this comes up, and then they plan their classes at home, or they could be planning their things at home. So, I mean, it will require extra planning. But specifically, I think that on those days that they have allocated, because what day is allocated for meetings? You guys have a specific day at the high school, right?
No, it's rolling.
Oh, is it? You don't have like a specific day of the week or something where if you're a
Well,
club and
it's-
you want to meet?
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
Wednesdays and Thursdays? Okay.
It changes every year.
Of course it does. But I know that, so I'm not necessarily saying that if that club is meeting during that, a lot of time during the school day that they should get paid extra for that because they are already on the clock. That's what they're doing. But there are activities definitely that take place after school. There are things that the teachers do on the weekend with these clubs
Right.
that are just out of the kindness of their heart right now.
Well, I don't know that that's completely accurate though, because we get all sorts of extra duty.
Well, that's
Sure.
one of the things I was asking.
Right.
Is because I have been removed from the high school long enough now where I don't know if those policies have changed.
Yeah, so is it a matter of they're not turning them in? Or is it a matter that they can't turn them
Or
in?
they not know to turn.
Whatever's been turned in, I've not seen anything come through.
Right.
On my end, Lori hasn't confirmed, but the
Nope.
ones that I've been pulling
No.
through, so I think it is more of them not turning it in, whatever the reason is, they don't think they can, or they were told they can't, whatever, but that's not to come from us.
So, from our understanding, if a staff member is doing something outside the duty day with students, that no matter what it is, they can turn it in for extra duty pay. Even if, I guess specifically if there is no supplemental contract. Because the supplemental contract takes care of that. So we're not talking any of those.
Here's what I would suggest. If you can check and see what organizations or what clubs we're talking about, that way we can verify specifically to make certain that that's happening. And if it's not, then we can address that. I'm always cautious to a blanket statement, anything that they're doing with kids outside of school, because they've just chose to do something with kids and it's not anything related to the school. If it's the chess club, it's connected to the school in some
Right.
way. If they just decide they want to go do something and none of it's been vetted, then that wouldn't necessarily
Oh,
fall.
no, that is.
And that's why I'm cautious to say anything about.
I guess I would say school approved activity.
Right. I think that being the case, I think we have. I know that since I've been here, there hasn't been any that have been rejected that I'm aware of. So it would just be a matter of, if you can let me know who you think this has been an issue with so that we can check and address it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is it in writing, like the extra duty pay? I mean, like, do you know
Like what
I'm
counts
asking?
for extra duty?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a long list.
Or like maybe easier what doesn't count. But is it somewhere? Or is it just kind of a given?
It is, but it's not specific.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Because then you limit.
But if you'll just get me who you think, and we can double check and see. Hours of work, the suggestion on the 15 minutes, and you guys asked some questions. Additional minutes would be added either to the start or the end of each building's day. Regarding the impact on transportation, it's minimal. They would either pick up 15 minutes earlier or they drop off 15 minutes later. Food service and custodial really doesn't have much of an impact in regard to that. For paras, if we added that time, the cost would roughly end up being about $87,584. Now, I don't know that I can tell you that would be exactly what it would be, because salaries and stuff like that change over time. As far as how it would look during the school day, obviously the principals were a little bit busy last week. If you think about adding, I'm gonna use secondary for the example. If you add 3 minutes to a class period, 2 minutes, whatever it happens to be, over the course of time, you're right. You've added 42 hours worth of time. That's instructional time. Again, I don't know that you guys are interested in that. And I'm taking Jill's saying
Well,
no.
okay, so I went back through
Sure.
and I did simple math.
Sure. That's the best. That's the best kind.
Best math. Because I just did 15 minutes a day equals 75 minutes a week at 36 weeks. 9 weeks. Which is 2,700 minutes, which is 45 hours, so 7.5 days, or 7.5 hours per day. So I came up with about 6 hours, or 6 days total, which your 42.5 would make it about 5 days total. So
Sure.
it's, similar. So at 6 days total, we would want, in order to agree to 15 minutes a day, we would want to see teacher salaries increase in coordination with that 6 extra days, on top of what we were already going to want to do, plus the cost for the paras. And in all honesty, we'd rather put that towards a new column.
Okay.
We already go to school the most out of everybody in the county.
I don't know that that's accurate.
I've got it.
If you would send that to me, that'd be great. I know 2 years ago that was not the case. We had the fewest number of days under the contract.
But not per day.
Now, what do you mean?
So
I may not be understanding.
So the minutes per day.
Okay.
So Shawnee Heights, their high school goes 7:55 to 2:35.
Okay.
We go 7:55 to 3:05. Auburn Washburn's high school, 7:55 to 3:03. So there's only 2 minutes. Holton Elementary goes 7:45 to 2:35. So they go less than our high school does. Topeka, they go 7:55 to 3 at the high school. So we go, our day is already longer than everybody else's in the county.
Can I
Send that to me.
Can I speak to this as well? I would like, from someone in an educative standpoint, to send our team research-based facts that point to why this is a good idea. Because I've looked, there is no
You can stop. We're striking it anyway. So
Okay.
if you want to keep going, you can.
I was going to
You
say,
don't need to-
there's no research-based conclusion to a longer day.
There's no research that says more time with a teacher
What?
gets you more.
Yes, there is, Marty, because I've done my research, because I'm a nerd.
It's okay. We'll agree to disagree
Okay.
and let it go, okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're
Yeah.
striking, but you're gonna send that. So our days are longer, but are we in school less days?
By adding the 2, that made it equal, didn't it?
We have fewer contract days than the other districts.
And that's just for my own curiosity.
I thought you told us by adding the 2 that I didn't look that part up.
We got closer, but we weren't.
I didn't look that part up.
Yeah. Send me that and I'll try and dig that up too.
Okay.
Okay, we have 3 minutes. I'm not going to worry about prep time. Let me tell you what I'm going to send you with, because I'd like you guys to have an opportunity to look at it. You're going to get a spreadsheet, and what's going to have is going to have a combination of 2 things. When you get it, if you have questions, email me. stop by, whatever. One of the things that we'd like for you to do is it's going to have a list of different costs for columns. And it doesn't mean that any of those are the ones we have to set on, okay? We don't have to settle on one of those. They're just a starting point. And what the anticipated cost would be. Along with that, step and column, which we can figure about $226,000. The cost for, say, $500 a cell, $1,000 a cell, $1,200 a cell, to add that. The cost of, let me take a look.
Looking at my accounts.
The cost, the column, step and column, not counting the additional column, and a cell increase. And what I've done is, or what I will do, is it will have the revenue that we're going to gain, the $1,069,347. And that way you've got kind of a breakdown. It will take with different increments, column costs, but it will also, if we put certain number of dollars in each cell. And I'll give you like three choices, 500, 1,000, and 1,200. And what that would cost based upon that, so that you can take a look at if we do the $144,000 in insurance. And again, maybe it'll be different with if we go with United Health, maybe it won't. But I want you guys to be able to take a look at it. And there's the original proposal that you guys had for the column. And then there's one for 2%, 3%, 4%, 4.5%, 5%. And then there's one that's a Shawnee County average. And that one is probably the one in 2 weeks I'll have to explain because it's convoluted. But what it'll be able to give you is, we know that we're probably going to spend $200,000 more on property and casualty insurance. And we can't get around that. We have to have that. All those will come to a total, and then you can look at the difference between that and the revenue increase that we've got. A lot of it has to do with where do we want to put the money? Where does it go? I think you guys would agree that the folks that aren't teachers, whether they be transportation or whether they be custodial or paras or whatever the case, deserve a raise as well. And it's part of the district's responsibility to make certain that we take care of those folks too. I know you guys want to have paras in your classroom. Typically what we've done is it's been the percent that we've calculated. If it's a 3% raise, that's what the 3% goes to for those folks. This will give you a multitude of examples on how do we distribute that money. I would like for us to have this be something that we start to do every year. You guys can sit there and look at those numbers and have an idea, where do we want to put it? What's important to you? Then it's a matter of, is it more important to have $1,000 on the base or to put more money on that column step? And you guys need to be able to have a voice in that. You should have a voice in that. Obviously, that's why we have a negotiated agreement. And hopefully, although I do meet with the insurance guy tomorrow, and I may have a stroke and be dead, so that could happen. If it is, then well, good luck on the insurance.
You have insurance.
That's right, I do. I'll be
That'll
dead, but it
you'll
won't
be
matter.
one of the high ones.
Claim
That's
11.
Yeah, claim 11, exactly.
Jump up to probably 3 million.
But hopefully, at least by the end of the day tomorrow, I'll have that to you. And if you've got questions, my spreadsheets don't look the prettiest, but they're functional and they make sense to me. And you guys just holler at me, and if you've got questions. Obviously, most everything is estimates right now because there are variables that I can't guess. But that way you guys have an opportunity to take a look at it and say, yes, we think a $500 or a $500 deductible, I'm talking insurance, $500 on a cell is important and we would rather give a bigger difference between the two columns. Or maybe we want a $1,200 per cell and we want a little bit less per columns. You may come and say, you know what, the $144,000 for the $30 a month more for insurance isn't that big a deal to us. Now that the property insurance we have to pay. Like I said, that's kind of a non-negotiable, and I won't know that till next week, what that amount is. But based upon everything that I have seen, I think it's probably going to be $200,000 at least. That makes sense?
It does.
Clear as mud?
Yes.
And holler at me and shoot me emails and call or whatever, and if you've got suggestions.
And we got the ESSER.
Yes, I
sent,
just got
Yes,
that.
And
Thank
then
you.
you're gonna get us the breakage, right?
Right.
And then if you find out the insurance before the 14th,
Yeah, I'll let you guys know.
or even,
Yeah.
do you think you'll meet with United Healthcare prior to that?
I don't know. That's my
Okay.
plan. My
Okay.
hope is that we do. Now, I will tell you that typically here's the way the process works. I'm going to meet with one of their guys. He's over the representatives. I don't know what his title is. He's not going to give me a bid, obviously. They're going to want to see what our claims are, and they're going to want to see the number of claims and the number of people that we have, all the information that Blue Cross Blue Shield has. We can give them that. And then they will start to work on that. We may not get a bid for them until sometime in July. That's the part I don't know. I can tell you that last year, Blue Cross Blue Shield did essentially the same thing and tried to hold out so that we didn't have time to go to the market. And then when we did, you remember we didn't get the final cost until the first week of August. We literally had 3 days to turn around to get that in for our open enrollment. I had a pretty good idea what it was going to be, but until you sign on the dotted line, you never know for sure. So I would hope that it would be the first part of July at the latest when we would have something, but I can't guarantee that because, again, we give the information to those companies. Some of them, I think, take it very seriously and are pretty aggressive and want to get us that information back, knowing we have an earlier enrollment date because we have an earlier date where our benefits start. A lot of districts, it's October 1st. Some of them, it's January 1st. We do September 1. And the challenge would be if we tried to move that, it's a lot more difficult than what it would seem because of the way they configure it. How's that? It's like an auctioneer. I know that we need to.
I want to
Yep.
clarify something really quick.
Sure.
So I want to jump back to really quick what Sarah was talking about with the added 15 minutes. Like, however many years ago when we started being approached and the board first started putting in 15 minutes and extending times and days and whatnot, the only thing we have ever heard is more contact time. But you had initially told us that, or whoever first initially put it in there, initially had said that it was from teaching and learning. Like, this was a proposal from teaching and learning. But that's really the only thing we've ever gotten. And so we're not unreasonable people. Like, if we can be told, okay, well, this is what we want to do, and this is how that 15 minutes would be used, and this is how we would like, not this year, because we would like to put that money towards the column, but like, we are more than willing to sit and listen and know the why, but we haven't been given a good why. I mean, other than kindergartners are done. An extra 15 minutes isn't going to do them any good. They could use an extra 15 minutes at recess.
Okay,
So
any other
that's
questions?
one of our big things.
Are we,
Why?
we just have the 14th?
Yes.
The 14th,
Yes, ma'am.
4:30 would be the next one.
Yep. And I don't think we've set ones after that.
Do we need one?
Do what?
We haven't set ones after that.
No, no.
Okay.
And we can talk about
Figure it
a couple
out
of
for-
these. One thing, they may need to use the room, so I can have you guys meet somewhere
Do
else.
you have a suggestion?
Downstairs, second floor conference room.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good, thanks, guys.
Thanks.